Bella Hills adjusted herself and her wavy night black hair on the stone fountain in the center of Sunset Gates Park. A steaming mug of black coffee in one hand, the other flew around wildly as she spoke to her old friend, Mortimer Johansson. "So you're a teacher now," Mortimer commented, with a hint of surprise in his warm, gravelly voice. "I know you were always so friendly, but I didn't know you liked children so much." "Since my brother went to college and my mother was laid off at the bookstore, money's been tight," she sighed. "I admit I would rather not work. I much prefer helping out in odd jobs like gardening. Teaching is great, but it's so cramped being in a boring classroom inside all day." Mortimer squinted his eyes and looked around the spacious green park. "I've never been one for nature. I do a bit of planting in the lab while crossbreeding plants, but I guess with your mother and you being God's gift to gardening, you have it in your blood. Being a scientist is easier than I thought it would be." The Hills family had always been a little financially challenged. She'd grown up playing outside instead of with fancy toys, rewarding her with a great tan and a passionate love for the outdoors. She hated being inside all day and empathized with her students' impatient longing for recess. Bella didn't expect the ridiculously wealthy Mortimer to understand her struggles. He spent most of his childhood in his dark, candlelit bedroom in his family's old Gothic manor, and the most adventurous thing he did was dissecting and playing with insects that he discovered at the park. But he was relatable in some ways. "You love kids too, don't you?" Bella inquired. "Yes, I love children," Mortimer exclaimed, beaming. His sandy brown hair shook like it always did when he nodded. "I'm glad I was picked to give a demonstration on electricity to your class this afternoon." Mortimer had a naturally charismatic demeanor, with soulful brown eyes, a rich, slow voice, and his charismatic and flattering attitude. He sounded like he was flirting all the time, even when he didn't mean to. It was quite a coincidence, Bella agreed, but a good one. Suddenly, a smartly dressed man with slick-back blonde hair, black horn-rimmed glasses, and a smug expression to match his arrogant gaze strode up to the fountain. Bella's heart sank as she recognized the man as Malcolm Worthington, her ex-boyfriend. They had broken up on awful terms after he constantly insulted her and criticized her, and both resented each other. Malcolm especially. He disliked being denied of anything, most of all love. "Leave us alone, Malcolm," Mortimer ordered sharply. "Express your arrogance elsewhere." Bella stifled a giggle. They both always spoke with such eloquence and insult that sounded so elegant and posh that it made them sound ridiculous. Malcolm glared at her, and she promptly switched her small smile into a cough. "Why should I?" Malcolm continued, not missing a beat as the cruel word slid out of his lips in a booming voice. It sounded as if he'd practiced his insulting speech in front of a mirror just to be positive it was rude enough. "Hideous beasts like yourself don't belong in a public place." A few students that were playing in a sandbox looked up furiously. They marched over. "Hey!" 7-year-old Candy yelled angrily, her clothes wrinkled from being buried in the sand and her red pigtails out of place. "Don't talk to our teacher like that." Roman scrambled to his feet. "Go away!" A chorus of "yes" and "don't talk to her like that" echoed from the stampede of kids now gathered behind her. "Excuse me?" Malcolm growled. "You're a meanie," Daphne yelled in her high-pitched voice. "Shut up, little brat." Her green eyes widened as Daphne burst into tears. The herd of children broke into yelling and screaming as they hurled themselves towards him, their little bodies clambering onto his flailing limbs and biting, kicking, slapping, and scratching him. "Ah!" Malcolm shrieked, attempting to fling off his minuscule assailants. He flew down a hill and rolled into a family's once lovely picnic. Finally, he succeeded in removing all the students and took off sprinting at the park. Bella rushed to check in on the kids, scolding them but thanking them at the same time. They burst out laughing. Mortimer wiped tears out of his eyes and chuckled. "That was hilarious. Your students are obviously devoted to you, Bella." The kids looked up at her and smiled. "Bye, Miss Hills." "Bye, kids." "They worship me," Bella laughed. "It might just because I don't give out homework." "You've always been good at teaching people lessons."